Have you ever prayed and it felt like your words just floated into the air with no answer? Have you ever wondered why some people seem to pray once and everything changes, while others pray for years and nothing happens? Today, I want to share with you a secret about prayer that very few people understand. And once you see it, prayer will never feel the same again. Prayer is one of the oldest mysteries of the human soul. Every culture, every faith, every tradition has its own form of it. Yet many still struggle asking, why don't my prayers work? Why do I feel unheard? Let me ask you, when you pray, do you pray with words or do you pray with your being? Because here's the first secret. Prayer is not about how much you say, it's about how deeply you connect. We often think prayer is about words, but prayer is not a speech, it is a language of energy. Imagine tuning a radio. If you are not on the right frequency, you'll hear static, even if the station is broadcasting. In the same way, God is always speaking, always receiving. The question is, are you tuned in? Prayer works when your spirit is aligned, not when your mouth is busy. Have you noticed how sometimes the most powerful prayers are not loud at all? Think about Hannah in the Bible. She prayed silently, and heaven answered. True prayer is not measured by volume, but by alignment. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence, not to ask, but to listen? Another secret is that prayer is not begging. Prayer is agreement. It is aligning your will with the higher will. Jesus said, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." The power of prayer is not in bending heaven to do what we want, but in bending our spirit to agree with what heaven already desires. When you shift from begging to agreeing, prayer becomes unstoppable. Faith is the engine of prayer. You can say all the right words, but if your heart is filled with fear, doubt, and unbelief, it's like trying to light a lamp with no oil. That's why the Bible says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. So let me ask, do you pray and then worry? Or do you pray and then rest? That difference determines whether your prayer is powered or powerless. Have you noticed how sometimes tears, sighs, or even silence can be prayers? Romans 8:26 says, "The Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words." This is the kind of prayer most people miss. It is not in the mouth, it is in the soul. And when your soul prays, heaven listens. One of the greatest secrets of prayer is persistence. Jesus told the story of the widow who kept knocking until the unjust judge answered. It wasn't that the judge was good, it was her persistence that brought the breakthrough. In the same way, prayer is like water dripping on a rock. At first, it looks like nothing is happening, but keep going, and eventually, the rock will break. So, what prayers have you abandoned because they seemed unanswered? Could it be that heaven was waiting for your persistence? Most people think prayer is about changing God's mind. But the truth is, prayer changes you. When you pray, your heart softens, your perspective shifts, your spirit expands. Suddenly, you see solutions where before you only saw problems. Prayer is not about moving God. Prayer is about allowing God to move you. Did you know atmosphere matters in prayer? Just like a seed grows best in fertile soil, prayer thrives in the right atmosphere. Worship, gratitude, forgiveness. These create the climate where prayer takes root. That's why Jesus said, if you stand praying, forgive. Because unforgiveness poisons the soil of prayer. Here is the part most people never understand. prayer is not a transaction, it is a relationship. Too often, people treat God like a vending machine. Insert request, expect result. But prayer is not about using God, it is about knowing God. And here's the mystery. The more you know Him, the less you even need to ask, because He already aligns your life with what you need. So how do you know prayer works? Not always by immediate results. Sometimes the proof of prayer is the peace you feel after you've prayed. That peace is heaven's receipt. It's a whisper saying, "It is done." So ask yourself, when you pray, do you leave heavier or lighter? That feeling tells you everything. My friend, the secret power of prayer is not in how long or loud you pray. It's in your alignment, your faith, your persistence, and your relationship with the one who hears. If you grasp this truth, your prayer life will stop being a struggle and it will become a flow. If this message has opened your eyes, don't let it end here. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that prayer still works. And before you leave, write in the comments, "My prayers have power." That declaration alone may be the spark you need for your next breakthrough. And of course, subscribe, because here on Sacred Whispers, we dive deep into mysteries most people overlook. Until next time, may your prayers rise and may your answers flow.